So we know that Jenna Ortega is a great actress, but did you know that she wrote a book? And will the standard of her acting apply to the book? Let's find out. The book is called It's All Love, and apparently it's a young adult nonfiction book, whatever that means. She wrote it when she was 17, which is a feat in itself, but that's not gonna stop me from talking critically about this book. So this is the book here. Take a look at the pages inside. Take a look at these pages here. So each one has, like, it's not a quote, but it's like what she thinks, and it kind of summarizes the other side. So it's a bit of a strange form here. Like, your imagination is your superpower. So it's almost like a bit of cliched one sentence stuff to summarize the other side, and then something about it on this side. And you know, I'm all for trying different types of forms. I took a creative nonfiction class in college, and there were tons of really cool experimental stories using unique forms, like, you know, writing within a cookbook, writing like a newspaper article, just things taking existing forms and then using that to enrich the writing. So I'm not against using a unique form, but it doesn't feel like in Jenna's book that it actually serves it. It actually kind of retracts from the goal of the book. It kind of seems like she was thinking, how can I make this unique? Oh, I know how. I'll put a quote of mine on every page and constrain myself to one page for each point. That constraint can often fuel creativity. You know, like in YouTube videos, I think there's a lot of really good YouTube videos because they're constrained to that. And, you know, a normal artist, a visual artist, a painter, they have to use the form of what they actually use to make it. So, you know, acrylics or charcoal or graphite. And that makes the end product better, I think, because they have to use their ingenuity to solve the problems that the form kind of creates. Now, for the writer, nonlinear storytelling or like per character chapters, kind of how like Game of Thrones does, are forms that I think inspire creativity in writing. But, you know, here, I don't really like it with Jenna's. Okay, let me just show you guys a specific example here. So right here we have families aren't perfect, but they're often accidentally beautiful. And I'm just gonna read what she actually says here. With family, you may not always get along, and certainly we're all flawed in our own way. Everybody's dealing with their own stress and insecurities, trying to get to the end of the day or the week as gracefully as possible. But no matter what's going on, my family will always be there. And then she like says, like, you know, they love her and everything unconditionally. Like, you can already kind of see what I'm getting at here, but she will say something pretty generic on the other page. And there are instances where this isn't the case, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But it does seem like she's making herself limited by having to focus specifically on the one quote that she said, and then that limits the storytelling that she can then do as a result of that. And this is a really short book. You can see that here. But the form actually makes it even shorter because it cuts it completely in half. Because, you know, and she doesn't use the whole page every single time either. So it's really a pretty short book. It's like 200 something pages, and that makes it pretty much 100 pages when you're doing it. So, I mean, if you do want to read it just to kind of see what I'm getting at here and, you know, curious about Ortega, then you may as well read this book, because it'll take you, like, it took me like maybe an hour and a half just to get through this. Because she limits herself by the page count and the fact that every single story is one page, like it never continues to the next page, that creates worse stories in my eyes. She'll like start to go on a tangent that I find really interesting, and then it'll just end because of the page, and we'll be forced to turn to the next page and sort of reset to something else. Even though there's general themes to the area, there's like a full reset between each page, which obviously, like, I'll feel like I get immersed. I feel like I'm starting to sort of feel in her world, and then it's just turned off, you know? And I think in really good writing, the transitions are almost seamless between each point. And obviously, you can have a chapter, you can have a perspective that's different. But like, say for instance, I don't know if you guys have heard of All the Light We Cannot See. In that book, we have two different perspectives, but the perspectives are transitioning into each other pretty well. And you're also kind of thinking while you're reading another perspective, okay, what is that next perspective gonna be like? You know, just because it's nonfiction doesn't mean there can't be characters created. You know, she can be a character, her family can be a character, her friends, and there are instances where there is a bit of that, but like I said, it's constrained to one page, so it makes it less enriching. Each page has a lot of telling us what she thinks about something instead of showing us how she's come to that conclusion. I'll show you an example. I have it on page 27. Even your strongest opinions and views may change over time. Life is constantly evolving, and your view of the world will change as you get older. You should embrace this process rather than fight it. People change, and it's only natural that your take on certain things will change with you. We should all continue to educate ourselves, talk to new people, and seek out new information. Let's embrace the idea that the day we stop learning, we stop growing. And I want to be continually learning, growing, and improving. Each of our perspectives is based on our memories and ideas and conversations. It's important that you have an open mind and know there's so much more to experience and learn. And you know, that's a good thing to say, right? It's not a terrible thing to say. But in a book here, like, I'm not reading some sort of Twitter account where I need to see motivational quotes or something like that. I want to hear a story from your life that made you come to this, that made you think, okay, like, I can change, my views can change, and this is why, and this is what happened. You know, it's kind of the classic English class show, don't tell. I will say there's a couple instances where she does a really good job of this, but they're kind of few and far between. So each story she tells, whether it's about drama in a friend group or not getting a part she really wanted, they're just too short. And the shortness almost makes everything she's saying more and more cliched, even if they are like really from her personal experience, because it doesn't really allow her to link to them. And I know that this is written for young adults, so you know, some of her points may resonate with more of that younger audience than me necessarily. But I'm a strong believer that writing for kids and young adults should not make the writing worse. You know, there are plenty of great YA books that appeal to everyone, and I just feel like they're more tactful about the sort of topics that they go around, and if they do have like an edgier or more adult topic, they kind of skate around it, but it's not like they completely avoid it. And Jenna in this book actually lays the whole book out in sections. Live with love, keep the faith, appreciate your family, take chances, prioritize yourself, embrace your ambition, love yourself, and believe in your power. So like, you can kind of see from that already that a lot of these points are going to be sort of cliche, like things that are talked about quite a lot, not a whole lot of super unique things. But where she could have made this really unique is she is a famous actress, and she has been through so many unique experiences that I would have loved to hear about. But you know, when we do hear about it, like I said, it's short and it's not what we want to see. And, you know, she was 17 when she wrote this book. And so, you know, I applaud her for doing that. But, you know, at the same time, it doesn't feel like she has the breadth of experience to give life advice, even to young adults. Because I feel like the best advice for young adults is when you're no longer a young adult, right? You kind of have some perspective on everything that happened. There is no way I could write an entire book at 17. I mean, much less even now, I'm 24. But, you know, I still think this needs a lot of work, and if she wants to continue writing into her 20s, I think that there is some opportunity there. By the actual writing of this book, it's more just the storytelling that I didn't like as much. And another big issue that I found with the entire book in general, and especially in relation to the themes, is that there always was kind of this brick wall between her and the audience. The blurb for the book says that these are deeply personal stories from Jenna Ortega's experiences, but I didn't really find that to be true. Even when there was an opportunity for her to kind of delve into her personal thoughts or talk about a specific dialogue that led her to think the way she does, she held back on the specific details. So this is just a sentence. So, I mean, she's just talking about relationships and personal setbacks and pain, and that there's no growth without pain. So she says, a few years back, a guy I was dating did something that betrayed my trust, and it caught me by surprise. As tough as that experience was at the time, believe me when I say I was very upset and hurt, I'm so grateful for it now. So, like, to me, it's pretty obvious, like, what I'm saying based on that. Like, what did he do to you? Like, you know, and I know that that can be traumatic and that these are painful experiences, but if you're going to write a book and you're going to talk about that, like, you need to let the audience kind of be led into that instead of just saying this was a painful experience, right? In Jennette McCurdy's book, she does an amazing job of this. And what she does that's really good about her book is that she will get into the mind space of her younger self, but write it in a way that kind of leads us to see what the issues are with things, like what actually made it painful. Even though maybe her at the time did not realize that, you can kind of see that perspective from like her now self, even though she doesn't explicitly say like this is painful or something like that. I know it's a young adult book, so like you do a little bit have to be a bit more spoon-fed than typical, but you still need to have some instances where the audience kind of decides what you're trying to get across and not really like forcing it, right? There's another point in the book where Ortega talks about another actress who kind of low-key hated her and was talking shit behind her back so that her other friends hated her as well. But, you know, she didn't really say how that happened. Like, she just said that it happened. And then she said that her and her friends spoke, and that other actress who hated her was trying to sabotage her friendship. And then, you know, I'm just like, dude, tell me some dialogue. God damn it, Jenna. Just, like, that could be a really cool experience to, like, know how these actresses are behind their back sabotaging each other. Like, how do you do that? And like, what specific words were said between them? And, you know, maybe she doesn't actually know what's said, but still you can kind of imagine based on what your friend had told you. And, you know, it's still nonfiction if you take a little bit of liberties like that. And I just feel like most of the book had this same problem. Lots of telling us kind of what to value and not enough of us telling how she came to value that. Or just letting the readers figure it out for themselves, what to take from her specific stories. You can always lead the audience where you want to, but telling us just straight out is pretty annoying. There were a couple parts that were not annoying to me, though. She did have quite a few positives in this book. I loved hearing about her specific experiences in show business. For instance, she talked about how scary it was to put herself out there. And on the second season of filming You, she had to cry on command, which I could never do, speaking of. That sounds like hell. And she hadn't done it since she was a small child. When it came to actually cry, she knocked it out of the park. And even with the like terrible anxiety she had during it, everyone was applauding her for how she had conducted herself as an actress. And it's so frustrating to me that there are moments like this that she could have delved so much deeper into, but instead she tried to cover all these life advice points, and she wanted to constrain herself to a page per like advice. It almost feels like she was trying to do too much and not enough at once. If she had just kind of focused on those stories which make her unique, then I think the book would have been much more successful overall. And I think the strongest part of this book is when she kind of tells us about taking risks. because she did take a lot of those. You put your self-esteem on the line every time you audition for a new role, and she did that often. She spoke about how she failed to get roles she really wanted, how she cried after she didn't get them, but still kept going because she believed in herself and she knew that she had to take risks to succeed. You know, I really liked that point of the book. Another good point was kind of an indirect endorsement of Stoicism. I don't even know if she knows what Stoicism is, but it brought it to me. She talked about when another actress really didn't like her and was spreading rumors about her, which this is not the same as before. I guess this happens a lot, which, you know, I want to hear more about. I'm beating a dead horse, but I want to hear more about it. But she then spoke to her family, and they told her, you know, you can't control this other girl, and all you can control is how you react to it. So that's a great lesson to teach young adults, I think, and really makes it like a good nonfiction young adult book. But I would say overall, young adults or anyone else for this matter should probably not read this book. Like, I'm sorry to say, she's a great actress. She seems like a great human. But I think that I'm glad my mom died. If you want a sort of similar book, similar layout, then I think that's a much better alternative to this. I would probably give this about a 3 out of 10 overall. And, you know, I think if Jenna wants to continue to write books, she can. But I would definitely try more of a storytelling approach. And, you know, super impressive she was able to do this at 17. And, you know, I'm excited to see what she does with books and with the rest of her acting career. Thank you for watching.